for making the time to join us in this presentation. We're here to talk about the Community Learning Library for Department of Education. And what it is, it's really a place for people to come together, teachers and students, and share knowledge and share information and create training plans. Rob, if you can go to the next slide. Yep. The easiest way to describe it is it's really a virtual bulletin board or a cork board, if you will, that allows more than 250,000 students and teachers to find what they need and also to create what they need. So they can create virtual lesson plans. They can share information that they find out on the internet or in Facebook groups or wherever it may be, as long as that is the URL. You can place it on a what we call a board as a card. And then people can search it and they can find it. If you go to the next one, Rob.
Yeah.
Just some stats around that. So again, it's quite a large environment. So there's a lot of students. We make a differentiation between students and teachers, where students can consume information, but they can't create it. Whilst teachers can, so teachers can create these boards and they can share them and they can, I always call it copy, but as Rob will say, we don't like to use the term copy. We'll get into that a bit later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, it's one of the largest tenants in the Southern Hemisphere, which makes it quite interesting because there's a lot of performance-related stuff that came around the corner that we had to think about. It uses all the interesting stuff that we use nowadays in building things for SharePoint. And I think one of the lessons learned is really that it's important to have the right tools in place to be able to build something like this. And also it uses Valo Modern Internet, of course, as a basis, very important part of it.
Yep.
Next one.
Why don't you turn your camera on there, Yannick, so we can see you while you're chatting?
You're supposed to turn it off during the presentation.
I've seen other people turn it on because you're so good looking.
Just been told. All right, I'll turn mine.
I'll turn mine off then. That's fine.
It should be fine. We had these nice Valo backgrounds, but I don't think we can use them. So obviously you can search for boards and cards. You can create boards and cards. We also integrate with machine learning, artificial intelligence as well, and external platforms. And we're also going to do a demo so you can see those things working. There's options for sharing with social platforms, so Instagram, Facebook, Yammer, you name it. You can also follow contents. If you like something, you can follow it. And if you think that Rob has created a really cool board, I can actually copy that and reuse it. And as we said, we made a bit of a thing about it because it's obviously time and content somebody used. So we acknowledge the original creator of the board as well. So it's not like you can just grab and run and pretend it's yours. There's a lot of analytics around it as well, which is partly done by Valo. It offers very detailed analytics around the use of the platform. And that is really being used to, well, number one, get more sponsorship, which is very important. But number two, also, we can analyze what people actually do, where people actually go, and how they use the system, but also how they're not using the system. So that means that we can identify areas of the platform that need some love and some attention. One of the biggest benefits of Valo, I think, in this project is also the universal web part, which was previously the search web part that allows you to surface any type of information and you can style that. Since then, they made it even better, so that web part now also allows you to do external API calls, etc. So that has been a very important part of the build. And also Valo's site templates and pages is very important. So what we can do, or what teachers or learning designers can do, is they can create a new learning challenge with literally one click of a button, and it will automatically be added to the system with the right templates and the right pages and the right web parts and the right layouts. So that's a very powerful feature as well. Next one, Rob. Yep. So where does the Valolove really come in? Well, there's a significant cost saving. So if you look at the whole program of work, where Valo really shines is it gives you a lot of bang for your buck. So we got a mega menu. We got back then we called it Valification. So you got the out of the box templates for sites and for pages. You get the creation of the mega menu, you get the universal web part, you get the events management web parts as well. So it gave us a whole tool set that we could use to really bring this home. Branding was quite important as well, because as you all know, SharePoint Online is quite difficult to brand. You need to do it in a particular way. I put the word unification in there because what it also does is, because of that branding and because of the site templates, everything looks the same. And that's a really big win when you work with teachers and students, because if you're non-techie and the site looks slightly different, you might be like, oh, am I still in the right spot? Am I somewhere else? So having that branding come across and, having that unified look and feel is very important.
And we are talking about a user group who aren't necessarily spending a large part of their day in SharePoint. They might be comfortable with Office 365, but they're not spending all the time in there. So they're not necessarily going to be used to, regular SharePoint UX.
Yeah, absolutely. And then again, analytics, I already said something about that. So these are kind of the top things that we use Valo for. Number one, obviously, being one of the most important ones there. It made a big difference. You want to go to the next one, Rob?
I'm always a step ahead of you, but there's just a couple of seconds in there.
Yeah. So what we've learned, I think we learned quite a lot, to be honest. The system looks amazing, but it's been a long journey to get there, both in mental capacity, as in technical capacity, as in team capacity. I think what we learned is that user experience or UX it's very important, and I feel that in a lot of projects it doesn't get enough love. If you do invest in that, though, it changes everything. You'll see that people interact and behave differently with platforms. It's much more accepted. It makes a lot more sense. And I think that's one of the parts where we also, there's a couple of awards coming this year that focus on that specifically. And it makes a big difference. Don't be limited what you think it can be achieved, especially in the SharePoint world. You're like, oh, can we really do these kind of things? Everything is possible. But also everything can be possible within a reasonable budget. You just have to think about how we do certain things. And you can only do that by not being afraid of changing in the organization. And a lot during the project what we had is that we ran into stakeholders that kind of said, oh, that's not how teachers work, or oh, that's not how the organization rolls, or are we sure we can do that? And kind of breaking through those barriers was good, I think, for the project and also for education and SharePoint Gurus as a whole. That also resonated into the development of things. So if you know how to do something a certain way, don't be afraid to change what you're doing and see if you can do it better or smarter. If you're doing a long project, you also notice that requirements might change or people's opinions might change. So having an agile approach to a project with milestones has been quite an interesting experience, and I think it's been a win for both SharePoint Gurus and for education, because it allows us to change some technical aspects, but it also allowed education to say, look, these requirements, we thought about it 2 months ago, but really, I think you can do it better, or we can do something different. So that helped as well. And again, having the right tools to design and track and then explain the vision, especially, it really helped. So we used Microsoft DevOps for documentation and tracking of requirements and tracking of progress and status, which is a very open and transparent way of working both with the client and with your team. And I think that was a great asset to have.
Yeah, from my point of view as the client, I found that very useful, that I could sort of focus in on things and find out what was actually going on and contact you when I needed to on that point. So that was good. Much better than email as we used to do it.
Yeah. All right. Over to you, Rob. Demo.
Yeah, well, just to, I'm sharing my window and not my screen. I'm sure we've all done that before. There we go. So this is the STEM.T for our learning library. When we were first building it, it was called the STEM Share Community Learning Library, and we had a rebranding at one point. But really the point of it is it's to cover our project and to give people the information they need around our project. And those people are us, the project people, but particularly teachers and principals in schools around our state. It's a very large state, New South Wales in Australia, and we have a lot of teachers and a lot of students. And to get a very clear message out about what it is that we do within that was very important, so that teachers could find the information when they needed to. But as well as that, what we were trying to do and what we are trying to do is build a community of practice around STEM. And if you don't know, STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics in an integrated way. And so physically, we're putting kits into schools, and those schools actually loan them between the other schools in their region. And so a kit of robots or virtual reality or filming might be passed from one school to the next each term. So they have it for a term, then they pass it on to the next school. Then sometimes make a decision to buy some of that kit themselves from different providers. And so what we wanted to do was focus in not just on giving those kits to schools, but also in giving them the teaching and learning resources and support around that, and also support through events. And we have a team of 12 STEM leaders across the state that also go into schools and provide professional learning. And so our whole project involves events. It involves a whole lot of support materials. It involves the physical equipment going into schools, but it also involves this journey that the school goes through in their learning, and also, basically in getting the kit, learning about it, and then passing it on to the next school. So a lot of different things to cover. To do the STEM community of practice, we needed something where they could actually collaborate. And so this is really where SharePoint Gurus came into it, and where we found that Valo was a good foundation for that as well. So would you like to talk about what we're looking at here, Yannick, on the front page?
Yeah, so I think on the front page, the main part here is the search box that you see in the middle, which basically built out of 3 parts, where we have I want to explore, which is a bit of a guided search that we see in more and more projects, where you have the option based by terms of values to say, I want to, in this particular case, explore, teach, or learn.
Actually, Yannick, something funny that happens in Teams, I actually pressed that button and I have a drop down and it's not showing. I just realized because it's a window share. So I'll just share my screen instead of the window.
All right.
Apologies for that. There we go. So you can see it now?
Yep.
Thanks.
So you can kind of say, well, I want to learn how to use a particular type of equipment, for example, or I just want to explore everything. So I want to learn about, I don't know, PC robotics. And then say, show me. And you can see that the results down there gonna switch to everything that has to do with learn. If you choose to explore, you'll get some more results. What we've done for performance, for example, is that we've broken it up so we don't get a big result set. We're gonna show 8 tiles at a time, I think. You can see that this is quite stylized. So the SharePoint results that we use search in the background are all very stylized. And from here, you can either click on a link, for example, that will bring you to that particular resource. You can see that there's 2 types of cards. So there's that card. That's a resource card, and there's also the board card, which you can see in the next row, and that's a board. So if you were to go to that board, maybe not right now, that will it doesn't matter. It will show you multiple cards that somebody has placed on that particular board. And these are just the specifics, and then you can see the cards. We'll get to that in a second. If you switch back to the other tab, So it's really handy for people to find something. And obviously, you can also filter. You can use keywords to search. You can also use what we call a board code to search. So if you're in a classroom, you have 30 kids sitting there, and you're the teacher, you can put up your board. You can show a QR code or just a normal code, and then all students can type in that board code, and it will automatically open that board for you in the last step. So that's really what we see on this page here. Do you wanna? So this one here is probably interesting to point it out. The learning challenges you see there, that's the Valo Universal web part. So with that web part, we can completely style that, or you can as well. And it allows us to pull out information just how we want it and present it in a very nice manner.
Yeah, so these learning challenges, they're a very curated part of our project. And so a learning challenge might be made by a learning designer like me or one of our STEM leaders across the state. And each one of these is actually its own SharePoint site, which is part of the hub. Maybe you can explain that better than me though, Yannick. But
Yeah,
if I click
absolutely.
on bee pollinators, I'll show you what I mean.
So that's the automated site creation part. So these challenge sites, as you call it, they can be requested. And once approved, they can be automatically created based upon site templates. And they're automatically validated and added to the whole. So they get the navigation, they get all the styling elements, etc., which is very beneficial. Do you want to show a good board, Rob?
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe the best way to do that would be look at our featured boards. There are certain boards that get a bit of extra attention. Maybe we like something that somebody's done, or what have I done? I'll
Friday demo.
Yeah, Friday afternoon demo, exactly. Who was thinking that would be a good idea? Yeah, I apologize. By the way, you would have noticed the loading screen there. I think that's a fairly interesting thing that you might want to mention how you did that, Yannick.
Yeah, it's polarizing. The problem with Office 365 is that
Polarizing.
You can't 100% control how things load on a page. So if you have SharePoint loading, and then you have Valo loading, and then you have our components loading, and then you have some other things loading, it becomes a very clunky experience when a page loads. So we had the idea to put a preloader on the page that makes everything happen behind the scenes. Once the page is loaded, we pull away the curtain, and then you see what's happening. The downside of that is that you look at these screens a lot, which hence it's polarizing. So this is a board. Oh, yeah, well, good. Yeah. So this is a board that somebody created, and you can also see who did that. Lawrence Dirks in this particular case. Each board has an image, and we'll see in the board creation how that works exactly. And because Rob is an admin, you can also see that bar there. You have admin access, which would allow him to change his board. You can also rate boards. So if I like a board, I can give it 5 stars. If I don't like a board, I can give it 1 star. This is one of the things that we don't show to students. So if I'm a teacher and all my peers think my board is terrible, but I'm going to use it in the class anyway, at least I won't get laughed at by my students because they can't see the rating.
Yeah, students have a very similar experience, but slightly different, just for a variety of reasons that made sense.
Yep. So you at the bottom here, you can see that this board is followed by quite a few people, which means that a bit up, which means that it's quite interesting. So follow is something that people do themselves, so they actually like it and they click on it and they follow it. I can also share a board with people, which is kind of telling, look, here's my board. I hope you like it. Yeah, you can send an email, you can send out a QR code, you can send out a link.
A link, the actual number that you can search for in that search we're looking at earlier. Yeah, this is a people picker.
Yeah. So you can select a class, for example, or some students. Yeah. And then on the right-hand side under the rating, you'll see remix and follow. A remix is really the copy function. So if you click that button, it will copy this board and make it yours, if you will. But it will still mention Lauren Dirks as the original owner of the board.
Here comes my remix. There it is, by Robert McTaggart. But if I hover over that, original board by Lawrence Dirks, and that's a hyperlink back to the original. Basically, we wanted people to be able to stand on the shoulder of giants, you might say, and also share each other's work, collaborate, that sort of thing. To use templates as well. So there might be a template that is for how to put together an activity for a day, or a whole unit of work that stretches over a term for students, and then they might be grouped in a certain way. And so they might have resources on there that are generic and can be used. And so you could use that as a template by remixing it and then repurposing it to your own students, or just sharing it with other teachers, for instance.
Yep. And then if you go down, you can see the categories and then the actual cards sitting in there.
So this is a category, and these are the cards on the board.
Yep. You can expand them, you can collapse them. Do you want to show how we create a board? Oh, might be
Love
interesting.
Yeah. Love to. This is the board wizard. So essentially, we have a number of kits that we're using at the moment, and we've actually just started a brand new kit. So we'll be talking to Yannick over the next week and trying to get a new one in here as well. But let's say I want to start a virtual reality board. So this is about our virtual reality kit or something around it. We've also got lots of boards in here that aren't about the kits, that are just about STEM in general or other pieces of teaching and learning. And so we use the general one for that. But I'm using the virtual reality. I press next. Now here I have the opportunity to either create a new board or to remix somebody else's work.
Yeah, so what it does here is that it kind of shows you previews or inspiration, if you will, of other boards. And I think these also give you a preview if you hover over it or if you click on it, so you can actually see what that board looks like. And then again, you can remix that. And I think this section here is curated, so I believe that the admins can kind of pick and choose what existing boards are being displayed here.
Yep, absolutely can, yeah. But I'm going to create a brand new board. And now here I can put in brand new. I don't know if Valo does do a lot of VR work, but let's say they do. And describe what your board is about. This is a board to show as an example at Valo Fest. There we go. So I click next. Now, part of the reason that we wanted this wizard is that we had a simpler way of actually setting up a board, but it didn't guide teachers through what we wanted them to actually be doing when they were creating a board. And so this was a big part of our user experience focus, creating this wizard, because if you add the right tags to your board, then all of the cards that you create on it will draw in those same tags. And so you'll have a much better search experience finding all the cards and boards that you've created, and other users are more likely to come across that. And so the whole ecosystem becomes a lot more useful because we're strongly tagged. And so that's why we wanted to encourage teachers to do it and walk them through it. And so this might not make a lot of sense to the people who aren't teaching in New South Wales, but to a New South Wales teacher, this is very straightforward. It's I'm working with stage 3 in science and technology. And so I get the stage 3 science and technology outcomes there that are from the syllabus. When I hover over them, you can see that I can actually see what that's all about. I might actually add mathematics there as well. And so I have my MA for mathematics and my ST. So they're the codes that we use every day when we're creating different activities or lessons in the classroom. And so I pick the ones that are relevant, and then I move on. What equipment do you want to use? So this is actually all coming from the term store in SharePoint. And as the user, as the teacher, I can add my own as well, and that adds that to the term store. Virtual reality, and what themes? Conferencing, there's one, but I can add my own as well. I'm going to click next. What do we got here, Yannick?
Yeah, this is an integration with an image data bank called Unsplash. This for a couple of reasons. Because there's so many users, we wanted to make sure that it wouldn't get boring. So you can imagine that if you would, give people a 100-image data bank to choose from, it would get quite repetitive. So what we've done is we integrated with Dunsplash, and there's thousands of images available that we curate, both on color, but also by people. So I think you can say only use StemShare approved images or something. And there's also machine learning behind this. So if Rob would search for a naughty word, that would get logged. So there would be reporting on that. So if teachers, don't press enter. No. If teachers, type something that they're not supposed to, there will be repercussions, if that makes sense. And also we'll filter out those results, so it shouldn't bring those things up. That's obviously important if you have that many students of all ages running around.
I did that live here, Nick. That's how confident I was that it wouldn't bring up any pictures. I trust your work, mate.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if I was to type, say, iPad, and that's red ones. There you go. Is any color? So then you can look through them back and forth, but I'll just press next. So that's just giving me an overview of everything I've done. It shows me what that's going to look like. I can jump back and forth between the different parts of this, but I'll go next. Then it says, here, you're done. Do you want to add items to it? We would suggest that maybe these items are relevant. And so it's pulling cards from other boards that you might want to pin onto yours, but I'm going to skip this, add my cards later. So I'll save and go to my board.
Yep, and that's also based upon the metadata that you entered previously. So you only see relevant cards there that might be interesting.
First thing I like to do is give myself 5 stars. And then I'm in editing mode at the moment. So if I close this, the first time I do it after creating a board, it refreshes, but then after that, I just edit and I'm good to go. So adding cards. Add a card and I get a similar experience, but I don't go through the whole wizard this time. This is just a simple way to add them. Now, remember, all of my metadata will be pulled into this automatically. So if I jump over here, look, I've got that stage 3, mathematics, science, tech, my outcomes I picked and my keyword conferencing. There's my equipment, virtual reality. So it's all there. But what I can do, basically everything that's on the learning library is not stored on the learning library. And that was very different, very deliberate so that we could get around issues of, having a large community. We didn't want to have to be constantly curating it, telling people, no, you can't put that there, that sort of thing. We trust the community. And sometimes we might need to curate things a little bit. But essentially, if this is going to be a modern social media type community of practice, then it needs to be bottom up where people feel comfortable sharing their own work and the work of others and resources that they recommend. And so it's very different to the traditional sort of education department view across the world, a very top down, here's what you're allowed to use. We're going for a more community of practice approach. And so what we had to do, but to be able to do that well, is not store everything on the SharePoint or on the learning library itself. We wanted people to link out to their own work, perhaps on their OneDrive or their Google Drive, or also, to links on the internet, to videos on YouTube, that sort of thing. And so if I'm to go somewhere like Valo, I can just grab the link here and I can grab the info. And what it will do in most cases is grab all of the information that's relevant for that. So you see it's actually brought in the title, the resource, and the image from there. It's told me
so
that
we really try to make the creation process as simple as possible and as least intrusive to end users as possible. So with traditional SharePoint, if you have to create a list item, it's a bit of a painful process. We've tried to make that as nice as we possibly could.
I can change the metadata, but because I set up my board properly with the wizard, I don't have to. There it is there. So create a new card. Okay, apply. I can create groups. Add the group, and then drag things into the group as I want to. Save and publish. And there's a very simple setup of a board.
Yep. We also have the concept of draft and publish. So if you're a teacher and you're creating a board, but you don't want to share it with the world yet, you can. So you can just work on it and save it. And then once you're ready, you can press the button and it will become available in the search, as we saw previously, and then people can find it.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously it's not just about being on a board, but the board and the card structure is central to the whole learning library. And a lot of that is by using that Valo Search web part or Valo Universal web part. And I'm going to show you why. I was talking earlier about the journey of the school, of the principal, of the teachers through getting a board. So actually booking it, preparing it, receiving it, using it, packing and evaluating. And so that's one way that they can actually sort of explore the learning library to start with. And so if they were, say, receiving their kit, I'll go to using your kit. What we have here are cards that are actually turning up from mainly our featured boards, but also some of our community boards as well. So every time you see this, this is actually that Valo web part right there. And so there's one about the equipment, work samples from students, videos that they can watch, online workshop recordings. And so that makes sense from, from a journey point of view anyway. Sorry, you go, Yannick.
Yeah, I was going to say, I quite like that large one because you can kind of see the board and then it kind of falls open to show the cards. Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
This one here, yeah. So you can just look at the cards and go directly to them, or yeah, you can actually open the board itself. And it'll take you straight into that as a resource. Just a different way of looking at it is actually on the board itself. And they're just recordings that we've made over the last year that are just webinars like this one. Now, another way of viewing it is from the kits themselves. And so if my school has loaned the 3D printing kit, then I'm interested in 3D printing stuff. And so it's just a different perspective that they can look at it with. But all of these are those Valo Universal web parts. Very powerful. And it means that as we update our boards, although we have static content on this site, it's dynamic in what's changing in the boards and cards, what our community are adding, what our STEM leaders are adding and changing. It changes underneath. So we have we have support on so many pages, for instance, that gets updated, and it just automatically updates over the actual static SharePoint pages that are relevant. It's very powerful for us. I can show you events, but it's pretty quiet in there at the moment, thanks to the lockdowns. But you know, we've got lots of other static content across the site. But like I say, it's made a lot richer because of the boards and cards structure. Yeah. Yannick?
Also, every creator has their own profile. So if you find a board that you like from somebody, you can click on the name. You can also see the other boards that they've done. There's also a My Boards section.
So I've just clicked on Lawrence's name from earlier.
Yep. So if you create a lot of boards, it's easy to find them back and update them again or see what kind of boards Lawrence actually likes. You know, if you like him as a creator, you can see the kind of boards that he follows, and obviously you can also do that for yourself. So if you would go to your own profile. Yep, and you can see your own boards and boards that you follow and boards that are actually shared with you.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much all of it. Do you want to show your Power BI dashboard, Rob?
Yeah, so essentially, we needed to know how this was being used and how it fits into the community of practice and how people are using this in league with the actual kits. So data is of a lot of interest to us in education, and SharePoint Gurus were able to build a lot of custom events in Azure. I believe that had quite a lot to do with Valo as well. Is that correct, Yannick?
Yes, it is. So with Valo, you get the analytics piece. Used to be called the admin toolpack. Now I think it's called Insights or Adoption, which gives you access to application insights and a tracker that's being placed on every single page, and you can expand on that. So Valo will give you quite a few of the Google-like insights, and then you can kind of expand that with your own code, if you will.
So I've just changed computers, but essentially this is our Power BI, and we have quite a lot of tabs across this. This one is showing user actions and page views. So user actions are what SharePoint Gurus call custom events. And whenever anybody does pretty much anything on the Learning Library, whether it's clicking on a card, creating a board, remixing a board, doing a search, what they're searching for, these are all custom events, and that you could probably speak a lot better than I can, Yannick, about how that's actually logged. But I know by magic, they end up in our Power BI.
Yes. Yeah, I think so. All that information is logged in application insights, and I believe that data gets piped into a data warehouse, and that's being visible in the reports here. I think one of the limitations of using application insights is that it only retains data for 90 days. So if you want to have years of data to see how the platform evolves, you'll need to store it elsewhere.
So we've got search terms in there that people are using. These are some of the custom events that are happening, adding a card to a board or publishing a board or rating a board. And so some of these are really about consuming. They're about getting information, which is where a lot of our schools are at the moment. But as we're trying to build up schools relating to STEM, we want them to be working more on creating their own resources rather than just consuming. And so some of these relate to consuming, some relate to creating, and we're looking to find impact in different areas. And we can do that based on the region that their school's in, because we have information on which user is from which school. And so we're not going to the user level. We're not trying to get into that because of people's privacy, but we are interested at a school and a regional level because we can actually support them physically, although not at the moment, but for the most part physically, and by virtual conferencing, by events and that sort of thing, based on how they're using the Learning Library.
Yep. And I think that was it, Rob. That was the end of our demo. Is there anything else you wanted to show them, or that popped into mind?
No, that was the main one.
All right.
I think we're up till question time.
Any questions?
So great. If you have any questions, now it's time to ask. Either type in the chat or just open the mic and make your question. I have to say that from Valo product perspective, this is really a great example of how Valo's extensibility options can be used creatively to fulfill real business needs, and this is, I love this case. This is so, it's just so pretty, the whole learning library, and looks that it's quite intuitive to use as well when creating or managing the cards and learning kits and so on. But a question about the user adoption. What did it require, or what kind of actions were done to get the educators on board with the tool? It's a big setup, like a lot of users.
From a technical point of view, or from actually training the teachers?
Well, we can start from if you have insight on how to really train the teachers to get get them to
Yeah,
use it?
well, like I said, we have those 12 STEM leaders who are across the state, and we also have learning designers who are working from the office like me. And so we have a very well utilized YouTube channel that's actually found across our learning library as well, all the different videos and that sort of thing. A few of those are about how to use the learning library and how to get the most out of that. But I think the most impact has actually been our STEM leaders actually traveling across the state. And it's a big state. It's bigger than a lot of European countries, for instance. And so they've done a lot of driving from school to school and actually set up their whole professional learning around this learning library. And so the teachers, they use the information on here. They teach with the learning challenges that we have on those separate sites. And the professional learning actually requires them to create boards and to upload some of the resources that they find useful around that, and to remix other people's work as well, and pin somebody else's card onto their board. That's one thing we didn't show you. You can actually go onto somebody else's board and say, I like that, and pin it. And when you pin it, it says which board do you want to pin it to, and you can pin it to multiple boards of your own. And so that's been a really powerful way to get people invested in it. When they start using it, they generally really enjoy it and use it more and more.
Yeah, that's great. So there's the rollout. It's really requires a lot of like field work. Go to the to actual go to the teachers, talk with them, and get them on board it. And
yeah. We also do a lot of stuff by virtual conferencing as well. And you saw how many recordings we've made about how to use different kits, how to use software, just teaching and learning topics. Most of those actually do reference the learning library in some way. And so in that way, we're encouraging people to come to the learning library no matter what. We're also pushing it in different ways, like in our signature. I'm just setting up a new signature that promotes the learning library more, like with a call to action, stickers on the actual cases. We have these Pelican cases that are very robust, that have all the robots and things in them that go from school to school. And we're going to get a new set of stickers that actually point to a short link that we've created with a very short domain. It's because we're stem.t4l, it's t4l.link/stem. And so we're hoping that encourages more and more teachers who didn't know about the learning library to find their way there. But we know from our Power BI and from all the custom events that have been there that pretty much every single school in the state has at least one or two teachers that are using the learning library quite a bit. So we're getting good coverage as far as that goes, but not all the teachers across all the schools. It's just maybe a handful of teachers in each school.
And it's also, I think, professional magazines, social media, etc., where you're kind of pushing. Hey, have you seen this board? Have you tried this, etc.
Yeah, and that's something that what you've developed, Yannick, allows us to do, because when you click share, you can share to Facebook, you can share to Yammer, and Twitter, also by email, and it's something that we need to promote more. The fact that they can do that. So a few people are doing that, but I'd like to see more and more of it. I think that would help. The question there from Ivan Wilson, were there any surprises on how teachers have used the functionality? That's a great question. Surprises. Some people have been using it beyond STEM. So high school English teacher, for instance, just loves the functionality of using it. And so a couple of people like that have gone in and started using it for their subjects, irrelevant of the fact that it doesn't involve STEM, perhaps. Some of them do, but that they just love the functionality that's been created, and so they'll use it beyond STEM. And that's why there's quite a bit of interest, I know, from other systems, but also within our Department of Education, from different little departments and projects in here, about actually doing a similar thing and having a similar setup for their own projects.
Great. Have you noticed any difference in the use, either number of users or like share volumes of use now that there has been homeschooling and everything and digital learning?
Yeah, well, actually, we were seeing a really good rise in users, just that gradual rise in users up until the point of COVID, and actually, although this is an online tool, it's actually gone a bit the other way because of COVID. Now, part of the reason for that is a lot of the users find the learning library. Excuse me. They find the learning library by getting the kit in their school, and they're like, "What's this? I've got a robot in my classroom. Where do I get help?" And so they go to the learning library. Now, people weren't in schools for a term. They weren't able to use their kits. And so we actually saw a bit of a reduction, or quite a bit of a reduction, across the last term. That's been pretty much back to normal now, close to it anyway. But we're hoping to go the other way. Yeah. I did have a thought that we could actually use it to put out a lot of the online learning at home stuff like that. But there was a concern from our team and our upper management, which was very, very good, that we didn't want to sully what we have here because of a short-term lockdown. We didn't want to have people using it in a certain way that it wasn't built for instance, and having people confused about what it is. And so we didn't go down that road in the end. And I think that was a good decision.
Okay. All right. Do you have more questions? Okay, I think not. So all right. Hey, thank you very much for your time. This was a great presentation. I love the demo. Next we'll be having a little break, and then in 10 minutes we'll be starting with the next session. So thank you very much.
Thanks, John.
And Yannick for the great case story.
Thank you for your time.
Cheers.
Yes.